最近咧，我都有同 ChatGPT 玩啊，因為咧我自己嘅工作成日都要用唔同嘅語言啦。咁我發覺咧，原來揾佢同我做翻譯咧係最快嘅。但係因為頭先開場嘅時候都講啦，暫時人工智能咧都取代唔到 MC 嘅即係嗰個重要性啊嘛。咁所以咧語言轉換咧都係要我親自嚟嘅。所以以下落嚟咧呢一場嘅 roundtable 咧係用英文咧去 conduct 嘅。咁所以我要轉一轉個 channel 先。So ladies and gentlemen, the following section will be conducted in English, and this topic is absolutely another hot talk of the town in Hong Kong. Propelled by advancement in technology, the virtual assets market has experienced significant growth in recent years. What are the opportunities? What are the major challenges? And how we can deal with them? And actually, we are so proud to announce that we have gathered the leaders of the Big Four accounting firms in this forum to share their insight and expertise with us on the topic on what's next to the virtual assets. What's next to the virtual assets? So this will be the last, but of course not the least section of the morning section. And we are going to have a Q&A section as well. And later on, just like the first sharing, there will be a QR code on the screen. If you have any questions, you are welcome to scan the QR code and type your question in. And our moderator is going to choose the questions and choose the questions they would like to answer. And also, of course, we have to check the time if we have enough time for that. So when the stage is set, we are so happy. May I invite you to join me to welcome our guests. 俾少少掌聲，我歡迎嘉賓們，好唔好啊？呢個飯前咧大家咧冇空肚食早餐啊嘛，咁我哋要亦都咧空肚去聽書先，好唔好啊？大家俾啲掌聲，大家我哋嘅講者，我逐一咧邀請佢哋。So may we now have Mr. Peter Koo, the conveyor of FinTech Specialist Group of Hong Kong Computer Society. Welcome. And of course, we have 4 speakers today, and they are Mr. Robert Low, Hong Kong Digital Asset Leader and Southern Region Capital Market Service Group Leader of Deloitte China. And we have Mr. Alex Young. Welcome. We have Mr. Alex Young, EY Asia Pacific Business Transformation and Innovation Leader, Asia Pacific Tech, Media and Telecom Sector Leader. And we also have Mr. Robert Shan, Director, Risk Consulting of KPMG China. Welcome. And last but not least, we also have Mr. Duncan Fitzgerald, Financial Service Risk Control and Governance Leader and Digital Assets, Web3 co-leader of PwC Hong Kong. Welcome all of you. So the stage is all yours. 俾個大聲啲掌聲. A big round of applause.
Thank you, MC. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Koo from Computer Society, convener of the FinTech Specialist Group. And today I'm not taking a major role. We have leaders from Big Four. This is a really rare scene to get a really hot topic. And we are all honored here to get in between your lunch. Sorry about that. But okay, let's get to the main point. How about let's start with a few questions and see how it goes, okay? Well, it appears digital assets is getting very popular, especially in 2023. And then we have the consultation paper from SFC, and then even guidelines coming out, and then lots of applicants around the world and locally coming to apply for their license, say for their virtual assets trading platform, service provider, all these licenses. And it's getting really hot. But I would like to start with a question with more generic. Say for the speakers here, well, what do you think about digital assets? How does it work out with the fintech like AI, blockchain? How does it affect you and your clients? Well, should we go with that way? Duncan, how about you?
So yeah, I think you're absolutely right to say that digital assets it has been a very hot buzzword. But I think the more important thing is to think about and to understand what the three aspects of real technology innovation that are changing many enterprises and companies in the world. So artificial intelligence, the blockchain is the underpinning technology which digital assets is on, and then obviously digital assets itself. So yes, we're talking about virtual assets today, but artificial intelligence is going to make things faster and easier in every aspect of our lives. Yes, there are challenges around that. And so, but when you get the three of those working together, other functions and aspects of the use of blockchain, coupled with artificial intelligence, and then I would say that digital assets is going to do two things. One is you're going to have different types of assets in that ecosystem, and the other thing is about everybody's digital payments and settlements using virtual assets. That's going to be faster. When I say fast, we're talking about seconds rather than overnight. As we've grown up in T+2 for security settlement, overnight payments to a bank account from here to the US, etc. We're talking going to be seconds. So it's going to be the velocity of money is going to be faster than we've ever seen it before.
Thank you, Duncan. Then how about you, Robert?
Yeah, so I think, overall, this all fall into the broad category of technological events, right? The speed of technology advancement over the last few decades has been extremely fast. I think we just heard from China Unicom about how quickly the broadband speed is going to become in the future. And with all these technology advancement, AI, blockchain, including crypto assets, and also, the general financial innovation is a key driver for most major economy and governments. We as KPMG make significant investment in this area by looking into the future. I think most organizations would do the same. And if we focus on digital assets specifically, you can see how it may differ from your traditional assets. Smart contract, you can program certain behavior within a public, transparent, or non-transparent, depending on how the blockchain is set up, in a way that suits the needs and the objective of whoever builds the blockchain or the user base of that blockchain. So, we're not here to sort of talk about what kind of innovation is going to happen in the future. There are way smarter people out there that's doing that, but we're here to support the industry to make sure that, when there's need for our services and where we can add value, we're there to make sure that the economy, our clients advance as a whole.
Ooh, thank you. Alex?
Yeah, so from an EY point of view, what we look at is more than just the crypto. We are looking at areas like the carbon credit trading, or something like we have been working with some of the university in EU, looking at the so-called decentralized authority organization, so that instead of an asset being owned by a big institutions, they can be share-owned by individuals. So it's a very decentralized way of owning the asset. And how are you going to trade this? So one example that we have been working on is like for a whole building, instead of a single ownership, all right, by a big property developer, can that be split up, all right, using the Web3 technology and share-owned by individuals? And for that, we have been working very closely with those universities to look into the process, the technology, the transparency, and the way to enable the trading. Again, in the Web3 or the tokenized, world, the speed of trading and the general understanding of whether the value is being recognized and being how they are protected to us is very important. And that should help us to really move ambitiously and aggressively into this part of the business.
Thank you, Alex. Robert?
Yes, so refer back to what Peter's questions is that our professional firms, what kind of our clients is now facing after the AI, blockchain, or the virtual assets. I think all this is related to the technology, how the technology can help the business, right? Everybody is talking about that. When we meet our clients, they will always ask the question is that the cost and benefits. If you come to sell us with this, some services related to the consulting services to blockchain, how the profitability and also how the revenue can be enhanced or increased. So I think the most important thing is that the applications, how we can apply our technology, the blockchain technology, to their own business. So different business, I think, have their own aspects, and they should be very specific, like for the banking industries, the FSI, or the retail, or the manufacturing. I think every industries can have their own skill sets, how to apply the blockchain to improve the efficiency. So the value, what the other Robert said, that is that our services, how we can provide our services to the clients to make sure that the gap between the tech or the fin, or even what kinds of tech to make it together, so to enhance their profitability.
Cool. Thank you very much, Robert. We're coming to another questions. Since we have observed on the floor, there are some VATP or VASP applicants or even operators here, and they are actually staring at us. Maybe this is a time for a question. Comparing to VATP or all these guidelines, here and the other region, any areas of improvement you can see or any cautious points you want to raise, you have to be careful. What do you think? Duncan?
So there's a lot of talk about the VATP licensing regime, and there's a lot of buzz and hype about it. Hong Kong actually has got a fabulous position on here, in that in the last 6 months, we've seen even more negativity and conservative views coming out of the US. And so, in some respects, the regulators there do not want to regulate crypto. They just don't want it in the US, okay? And therefore, those people who want to operate a legitimate, regulated business on a trading platform, a brilliant choice now is Hong Kong. Yes, Dubai is there as well, but Hong Kong is well positioned. In some respects, I think one of the respects Hong Kong's got a massive advantage is the brain power in digital assets. Where did digital assets get innovated? Where did it start? Over the border. That's where the brains are in terms of mainland China. And we are one country, two systems. So here we've got a massive global opportunity here. Now, the VATP guidelines here are attracting a lot of applicants. One could argue under the virtual banks, when there were a lot of applicants for virtual banks, and we ended up having less than 10. But the virtual banks had one different aspect from VATPs, is that their customer base, their consumer base, was predominantly Hong Kong. Whereas the VATP applicants here will have global customers that want to have an accounts here with a decent regulated authority, and it's a world-class authority, the SFC. Now, your question about do we need to be cautious? Well, the VATP guidelines are quite restrictive, but they are very clear. So we're in a much better situation here to have clarity about what's needed. Some people might not like them, but at the end of the day, we're still going to get a lot of applicants because people are accepting, whilst they might be a bit of handcuffs and restrictive, they're clear, and you will have a global client base. So I think the future is bright for Hong Kong on that basis for the virtual asset trading platforms. And us as a profession, thank you very much, because I think all of the Big Four want to be part of it, and we will be part of it.
Thank you, Duncan. Robert?
Yeah, I mean, completely agree with Duncan there, right? Actually, I gave an interview to the Hong Kong Economic Times a while back, and the exact same question came up. Hong Kong is really in a great position for a lot of trading platforms to establish as their home base. Why is that? Hong Kong is a recognized capital market, first-tier capital market. These platforms are going to be needing capital if they want to grow. There's no better place to do that than in Hong Kong. Hong Kong have a very stable, going forward, have a very stable and certain regime where everything is clear. There's no uncertainty. And anything, if you look at the history of any industry, and capital markets especially, where the laws or regulations are certain, that's where the industry will flourish. From another point of view, if you're looking at what is covered by the regime in Hong Kong, all tokens is covered, and there's actually no strict restriction between NFTs, cryptocurrencies, or other tokens. and the stable coin regime is going to be coming in the future. So, you know, there's a lot of innovation that can happen. Like I said, there's a lot of smart people in the industry. They know what their business plan is. They may have a very, you know, long-term view of what they will want to do, achieve in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is also a very large institutional market. So you can serve both your institutional clients, your global clients, your local client, depending on what your business plan is. And on the challenge, I think the key part our applicants should recognize is that there's going to be a lot of applications. You know, the SFC does have limited resources. And you know, the key would be to have a very complete application package if you want to, you know, really become one of the first to get the license. And also the difference, I would say, between the VATP licensing regime and the virtual banking licensing regime that happened in the past is, you know, there's not going to be a limit on how many licenses they're going to give out. Anyone that meets the criteria will receive a license. But it really depends on how complete your application package is, and that will determine when you're actually going to get the license.
Thank you, Robert. Alex?
Yeah, I think from a VATP perspective, I would say that, you know, like, you know, Robert said, that it's like, you know, we need to make sure, you know, see how the VATP applicant be able to provide all the necessary information. And one of the key things is like how the platform provide that transparency. That's one. The other one is how are they going to educate the market, whether it's retail or the enterprise? Because for a transaction platform to work, you need to have that sort of a liquidity, all right? And that liquidity, you know, kind of supported by transparency, and as well as the the tradabilities of those tokens. Yeah, you know, from a medium to long-term perspective, what we are looking at is like not just trading on crypto. The rest of the other tokenized asset will be key. You know, I briefly talk about the carbon credit, and you can also see that like some of the big consumer brand, like the TV brands, TV monitor brands, they are all start venturing into this sort of providing the platform to trade NFT on the arts. That's one. The other one that, you know, in the enterprise world, there's always a talk about how do you tokenize your data, meaning how do you monetize your data. That actually by itself is an asset. Once you tokenize it, you can freely trade within the company or with other company. That actually project itself as a potential future of trading and maximizing the monetary value of IP. That is another big market that hopefully we can see the VATP can participate and help.
I think for me that what other panel speakers has mentioned is that I agree with their points, and what I would like to give an addition point is that Peter has asked is about the license compared to other regions. Everybody's asking me is about compare Hong Kong to Singapore, where we should apply the license in Hong Kong or we should go the business to Singapore. I think just back to the Hong Kong as an IFC, and before I go to the market of the digital assets, I participate in a lot of IPO deals. Everyone is talking about not only being listed in Hong Kong or in US. They're talking about dual listing, right? You should consider that the business is a global business. When we are talking about Web3, the virtual assets, we should cover the business all over the world. So I believe more of the participants, they are now considering maybe in Hong Kong as their first place, but 2 years, 3 years later, they should consider other places. So I think keep it open for all the participants. And as you see that now in Hong Kong, there is a lot of participants now applying the VATP. And some of the local securities firms, some of them are from internationals, and even some of them the managements or the shareholders of the mainland. So you can see that the business is now not only in Asia, but in Europe or other regions. They are now willing to come to Hong Kong. I think this is one of the advantages of Hong Kong. We have a very good financial infrastructures and all the, say for example, the AML and all the brokers, insurance, or the monetary authority, we still have the very solid foundations here. So I believe Hong Kong stood a very good chance to become an international virtual assets hub. And for the other side is that what you mentioned is that about maybe the carbon credit or the IP, is we're talking about the STO, the securities token offering. I think this is another point that we should consider for what the applications of our digital assets. In long run, this is another channel for the fundraising purpose in Hong Kong. So I think this is a very specific topic. We see whether we can have more time to discuss about the fundraising from the STO.
Sure, since you're asking for that from the panelist. Then how about next question? Like what Alex first started for digital assets. How can this affect maybe using tokenization, or how we can further elaborate and then escalate ourselves from local to global? For example, carbon credit or some other system that may be applicable that we can see what's next for the future. How about we start with Alex?
Yeah, from what we have seen so far, all right, and we look at some of the like voluntary carbon credit trading last year with one of those trading platform in Europe, all right. They are doing roughly like $20-30 billion, and they have an aspiration to go all the way to $50 billion in a couple of years. Now it is growing very rapidly, all right. Given that there is a regulatory requirement, right, imposing by all government basically to hit this 2050, right, carbon neutral. So it by itself, the regulation drive the trading of those credit. Now we also see some interesting things coming up of that. It's like some of the company, they are way ahead in terms of really going into the carbon neutral. So they bought quite a number of carbon credit. So they start selling the surplus carbon credit to the others. All right, so it sells. We see liquidity stemming out on that. The other thing that I would say is like I mentioned about this interesting idea being practiced, or trying out in Switzerland actually. This decentralized property ownerships. Just imagine if all our assets are being, tokenized, how would Hong Kong be able to participate under this? And as for the Hong Kong regulators, how do they stage this and be able to participate and support the VATP to trade that? I would say it is still very early, but we need to kind of participate, all right, and support that. And what we see is like on the virtual asset management platform will be a critical element. To be frank, at least for EY, we need to make sure that that platform provide that transparency, auditability, and traceability for that. Because otherwise, it is hard for anyone to make it right. To show the assets are being protected and managed properly.
Thank you, Alex. How about you, Duncan?
Alex has been talking about carbon credits, but I think that in terms of like the future, let's just 10 seconds of where the past was. I mean, I got involved in this in 2017. People get involved in 2013, 12. The past was two different ecosystems. We had the crypto ecosystem and the traditional financial services ecosystem, quite separate. What we are seeing now is, I wouldn't say a total integration, but we are seeing a morphing of the two ecosystems. We're seeing traditional financial services companies getting involved in virtual assets, or let's say digital assets trading. So there is a blurring of that distinction between the two historical ecosystems. But what does that mean for the future? It means that actually many people are convinced about the benefits of a blockchain-enabled, very fast and global transparent transaction type of system which is what this blockchain and different blockchains are enabling. So the future is going to be on not just current crypto assets, it's going to be tokenization of real world assets. And I will highlight carbon credits as one example, but it's just one example of real tokenization of real world assets. And it will enable that to be faster. We will cut out, in due course, maybe 5 to 10 years, a lot of the banks that are running the guardrails, where you've got transfer agents, you've got custodians, you've got so many different parties, all taking their slices of fees in the traditional financial services. A lot of that is going to get collapsed down. It's going to be faster. Reconciliations, anybody from an accountant or in operations in a bank, have you been involved in reconciliations? Bye-bye. No more reconciliations. It'll be balance agreements because everything will be settling automatically. So we won't need to have reconciliations, which will be very efficient from a financial system. And it will be very liquid because we're going to have a very, very fast velocity of money. So I think in terms of the future for me is that it's the future of the use of the industry and the use of the infrastructure, and VATPs. We might not have VATPs per se, because everybody in 10 years' time will be on a different type of infrastructure. It may well be a blockchain backbone, and therefore that blockchain backbone will be used by stock exchanges and other aspects. I do just want to highlight one aspect you were talking about in terms of applicants and people wanting to get into VATPs. Let's not forget that there are a number of banks and securities companies in Hong Kong that want to get into the ecosystem, but they don't need a VATP. They can be a distributor, so having a Type 1 uplift and opening omnibus accounts with virtual asset trading platforms. So there are different options of the way that traditional financial services can enter the ecosystem. You don't have to have a VATP.
Thank you, Duncan. How about Robert? Robert Sang?
Yeah, I mean, agree with Duncan and also Alex, right? So at the end of the day, it's about how you link the innovation going forward, in my view, is how you link the real world asset to your sort of crypto digital asset. In the beginning, when Bitcoin was first conceptualized, everything's digital. Bitcoin was supposed to be the cryptocurrency in digital world, and really up until I would say 18, 19, everything is really haven't got that real world aspect to it, right? Then you see USDT, USDC coming in, we're sort of, I could say, is probably the biggest driver for where you had the linkage between real world and digital asset, because now you have the fiat-backed stable coin on the ecosystem. But that had its challenges. You can see in the news, all the regulatory issue and different negative news that both Circle and the USDT, forgot their name, organization, run into over the last couple of years. Going forward, it's going to be the same challenge. If you start digitalizing an artwork, real artwork, onto the blockchain, you're still going to need certain level of security, trust, maybe even custodian services for that real asset. And that's the part I think the industry is going to figure out. And there are many people working on that problem, right? So I think over time, that innovation is going to solve itself. And over time, like Duncan said, you may see a future where organization will cut down on a lot of the back-end office work, such as reconciliations, and move toward more efficient and more real-time transactional network.
Thank you. And Robert Loy.
Yes, I totally agree with that. There is two classes of ecosystem here. Is the traditional finance guy, the family office, and the other is the Web3 or the virtual assets. How we can get them together to build up the real Web3 ecosystem here is that I think here is that it's very difficult. I did a lot of work in the past 2 years and just share a little bit my experience here is that my feeling here is that the most easiest way for let the traditional money, the traditional business to get into the virtual assets or get into Web3 is through some asset-backed securities, or not. I don't use this term, it's such a securities token, because this is more easy for them to understand is that the token have some assets to back up, and then they are willing to listen more about what's the technology behind, because at least their money they invest here have some protections because they know the valuations of the assets like the IP or the property. This is a more easy way for them to invest. And you can study some examples in other jurisdictions. Is that in Singapore and US, more than 200 STOs has been listed in the past 2 to 3 years, or in Singapore. What kind of industries they has covered is that I think both of them are maybe some IP or the properties related. This is more let the investor to get understanding about the blockchain technologies. I think this is a way to let them know, and also they can have a channel to fundraise. This is very, very important because in the traditional IPO or in the bonds markets, it's not easy to do some fundraising. But now you can get some money from the virtual assets ecosystem or the NFT. The money, they have some huge profit here. They are now willing to invest the money back to some traditional market as well. So I think it's more easier way to do. This is my little bit sharing.
Thank you, Robert. You're actually getting into the next question a little bit, and then allow me to ask the question I was actually questioned the other day. Why, Peter, you want to put the Big Four under the spotlight, and what are their roles in this kind of VATP or virtual access? And whereas I was trying to say, we are trying to lend some credibility to trust and comfort of the system. And why is that? Sometimes, well, we may be taking like a private tutor role, like my son's, or examiner's role, then against like my son's exams. Then can you gentlemen elaborate a little bit about Duncan?
I do feel it's not just the Big Four, but you got the Big Four on stage today, but I think our profession has a societal duty to help provide trust and comfort into this digital asset or crypto ecosystem. We've seen far too many bad actors and scandals and hacks and thefts, etc. So there's a lot of skepticism about and concern about the ecosystem. And it's here to stay. So I think our profession is just naive if you try to run away from it. We actually need to embrace it and identify which are the people, which are the organizations that we want to work with, and basically put our name against to say that actually if we're going to do things like providing comfort, and yes, audit is a formal type of comfort, but we do need to do that in this ecosystem. Now, our profession does have challenges on accepting audit appointments. There are two reasons for that. One is a number of these organizations haven't done the right things in the past, and therefore, because of that past, quote-unquote, bad behavior, even though they've tried to clean it up, it's not as if you can get an eraser out and just rub out the history. No, it's there. And therefore, a lot of that legacy stuff is tainting the legitimacy of some of the businesses today. So our profession is challenged by accepting audit appointments for some of those businesses. The second challenge is that we have certain regulators, and the US is one, which have set out some very, very specific, high-cost and very restrictive types of tasks that an auditing firm needs to do. Now, whether it's right or wrong, we can debate that, but actually it's there. We need to comply with that. And therefore, because they're so costly, some of these things, it makes it very hard for the tier 2, tier 3, the smaller accounting and auditing firms to actually abide by those, because there's a high cost to entry on auditing and providing comfort over the crypto. But we do have a societal duty to address it and get on with it, because actually it's just going to get bigger, and the use of that technology and the platforms with tokenization of real-world assets, our profession has a duty to just get on with it. And it's up to people on this stage here to take the lead and take the initiative in each of our respective firms and our industry to educate our profession in order to be able to serve that community.
Thank you, Duncan. Robert?
Yeah, I mean, really nothing more to add to what Duncan said, right? I mean, our industry is here to provide a service, a service that people will like to pay for and that'll be value adding. most people know us as providing external assurance. Of course, we provide other professional services as well. At the end of the day, we need to be comfortable that whatever services we provide, we have the expertise, we have the capability, and we have the capacity to do it within the laws and regulations of the jurisdictions. I hope everybody on the stage agree with me. We're all going on this journey with we don't know what's going to happen. It's a lot of innovation. The regulation also changing constantly. So, we need to be prepared. And, and there are certain restrictions that our industry is facing. But at the end of the day, as an industry, we will evolve and we will be, there to meet the needs of the market.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, I fully agree with Robert and Duncan on that. We have this societal responsibility or duty to do that, all right? Now, for us to really back it up, all right, from an audit perspective, what we have been trying to do is to bring in our auditor to work with our advisory team, to work alongside with our client on different business model, how they manage it, how they generate the tokens, how they sell it, and all this stuff, so that they understand from business process, from technology perspective, and from the governance perspectives. So we are learning, all right? Now, I think after the different government coming up with different regulations and license, it helped accelerate that process because like Hong Kong government, they have stipulated all the rules and regulations very clearly. What can be done, what cannot be done. All right, so this is actually a way to accelerate. Now, Duncan talked about the US. Absolutely, it's very costly. All right, so how, whether the Big Four or the Tier 2, Tier 3 will be able to participate, or look, this is a very decentralized world. Particularly, this is related to Web3. Look, what the the panelists has discussed earlier on is like. This is a global trading platform for all the tokens. Is it in the US or the rest of the world? There are places that we can trade. Let's work on with the rest of the world, right? At a very effective and cost-effective manner, but at the same time protecting the investor and the trading, the traders on all this value. I think that is the key.
Robert?
Yes, I think a lot of people in the market is asking about whether the Big Four firms can be the auditor of their companies. I received a lot of these inquiries in last year, so it's not easy to accept an engagement. But the thing is, we need to look into the corporate governance, the internal controls, or the management structures. A lot of things the auditor should have considered. But just back to 10 years ago or 5 years ago, for example, is that some of the companies, like the mining companies, would like to have adopted the IPO, being engaged in auditors. At that moment, this is a very new industry. The valuer, the auditor, they need to learn. What Alex mentioned is that I think for the whole market, not only the auditor, the lawyers, the professionals, the regulators, everybody is learning about what this business is going on, any risk here, the control, where is the control. I think we need some time to learn. And the most important thing is that we should have a international board or global board have some periodic meeting to discuss about the regulatory framework because this is changing rapidly. Like the SSB, what we talk about is the climate, the ESG, just making some announcement about the international standard about this ESG. They took 3 years or 4 years, including the professors, the accountants, the lawyers, the regulators, form a team to do some research how we can make a regulatory framework for the petitioner to follow. This is very important. So I think give us some time. We should learn it from the whole process.
Thank you, Robert. And since you mentioned about much about STOs, and then we're talking about, well, for now, the guideline only allows major digital assets to be traded. And speculation they are doing this stage by stage in a very safe and reasonable manner. And then what if, when the other tokens and then derivatives or STOs will be in place, then what you can see, the risk and benefits, the cost and benefits, and then how any recommendation, how this should be implemented. How about starting with you, Robert, at this time?
I think Hong Kong as a IFC, or we would like to become an international virtual asset center, we should consider different kinds of investment products. But at this stage, we should start. So we have our products, say, the VATP can choose how many virtual assets, how many crypto they can consider being launched. Just mentioned by Peter is that whether we should have the derivatives products for the virtual assets. Just you see from the other platform in other jurisdictions, they should have. So Hong Kong has the ETF, but what we should do is that for the timing, right? At this moment, maybe in the early stage, we need to let the market, including the retail investor, we should give some time to the market to know more the developments, and then at which stage we should then consider the derivatives. And during this process, I think we can do more from the education perspective for the retail investors. Not only the regulators will do so, the SFC make a lot of the public relations or the educations. I think for the industries associations, we have a lot of fintech associations, maybe the digital assets associations, and also like the police force. We can also involved in these public educations as well. A lot of the anti-scam or you will receive some call to ask you to invest in some crypto sometimes. So we should give some time and educate the market what the rule for the virtual assets is going on, what kinds of Web3 is doing in the future. So I think the education is very important to the whole markets, and then we considered after this 1 to 2 years whether it is mature for the market to include the derivatives. But of course, I support the STO because this is what I mentioned before, is that this is a good point for the entry level for the investor to understand more what the blockchain or what the crypto assets is going on.
Thank you. Alex?
Yes, definitely support the SDO. Definitely support, eventually come to a certain time frame that, rolling out the derivatives. But the key is like the first 2 to 3 years, maybe like 3 to 4 years. I tend to be a little bit more conservative of that. Make sure that, let the VATP to work with the retail, traders and all this stuff, and make sure that we can really, build the level of, the sophistications before we bring in more capability, investment opportunity through the VATP. The other thing that I want to highlight is that for our VATP in Hong Kong, it's like they really need to work with other VATP in other jurisdictions. I think this is the key. This is a global trading of tokenized asset. It cannot be just Hong Kong, all right? And how do they collaborate? And at the same time, the regulator in different jurisdictions need to collaborate, need to come up with some commonly agreed standard in order to push for that, all right? At this moment of time, there was too many, hype around this, or too many bad story about that, the crypto thing. It's all because, in the past, a lot of the regulators still at the wait and see. But now, as Hong Kong has, embarked into this a very important step, right, as a regulator, and also as a, financial center for digital asset, we need to form that kind of a, regulatory consortium. Right, in order to encourage the STO future, trading of the related delivery, kind of stuff, and that's what we wanted to see.
Thank you, Robert Chang.
Yeah, I mean, so I think in the near future, my expectation, you will see more guidance coming out from the SSC around security token as well as derivatives, right? And just to be clear, so security token is allowed to be traded if you actually know about the previous VATP voluntary regime. the reason why OSL and Hashkey can be regulated by the SFC is because they offer at least one security token, so they can apply for the Type 1, Type 7 license. A little bit technical, maybe for this audience, but at the end of the day, there's a difference between security token and asset-backed tokens. Security tokens are securities, and there's a proper regime already under the Security Future Ordinance that governs security tokens. But back to sort of the main topic. So I totally agree with what Robert said. I think the key challenge right now for the industry is education. There are costs and benefits to issuing particularly derivatives. Derivatives are extremely good financial instrument for facilitating financial transactions if you think about hedging purposes, and also providing liquidity for the customer base. But on the other hand, the biggest challenge is derivative is extremely risky. People who do not understand derivatives can actually incur very high cost. And if you think about the derivative that's currently seen in the crypto space, the innovation is actually much faster than the traditional market. So, for example, the perpetual derivatives, you wouldn't have seen these in the traditional market. And also, depending on which exchange or protocol you look at, how they structure those derivatives is completely different from one another. So there's no standardization across the industry, which is why you can see why, regulator and also us is quite, interested and also have certain questions that need to be answered before, these could be properly offered to the general public.
So the panelists have covered derivatives and security tokens, and I agree with the view that at the end of the day, the SFC had their reasons not to allow those on day one, and the panels have gone through that. But the other aspect that's not allowed also today is stablecoins on the VATPs. So let's just have 2 minutes on that. Is that if you are a client of a virtual asset trading platform and you want to be able to get out of some of the risky stuff that you might be holding, but you don't want to get off ramp. You don't want to go into fiat through the bank account. You want to be able to hold something that's pseudo fiat or fiat backed temporarily until you're comfortable to go back in. Then stablecoins are a logical choice. Now, I actually agree with the SFC not allowing stablecoins today because we all know that the HKMA has had one consultation paper out. There's another one, the talk on the street is that's going to be announced within the next 6 to 8 weeks. So actually, we're just talking about time, and it's only about when, not about if. So actually, I think I honestly believe that the SFC will be able to make some refinements once the stablecoin regime is out and up and running. And that will be another addition to the VATP. But that's only my personal prediction. But I do understand why they're not allowed today for the reasons I've just explained.
Thank you, Duncan. Well, Erically, we got lots of questions from the floor, basically over a dozen. However, due to the time constraints, well, sorry about that. Don't want to get in between the lunch and the panel. But one question here is more like a comment. Allow me to read it out. Well, it's talking about for the new guideline, and it doesn't mention much about risk and governance. Say lots of these kind of companies with the board, even the board members, whether they should acquire the knowledge of virtual assets, even security, and even risk and governance to be on board. And I totally concur. If you have any disagreement, feel free. Then one more comment is like not only virtual assets companies, even the other listed companies should consider the same requirements. Feel free.
So the question / comment I agree with, but let's remember a board is supposed to have collective knowledge of all of that. A board is not required to have the all comprehensive knowledge in every single director. That's why it's a board of directors that are supposed to work collectively. So that's why on there. So I agree with the fact that that knowledge needs to be appropriately in the board, but it doesn't require every single person on the board to have that.
Agree. Okay. Well, again, thank you very much from the leaders. Well, from all Big Four. Maybe next time we get some other firms, if you don't mind. Anyways, thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you for the very moment. Thank you so much, our esteemed panelists, for sharing your valuable insight with our audience. Before we conclude, we would like to ask you to remain on stage because we would like to present you a special presentation. The founder and chief visionary officer of Business GOVirtual, Ms. Cosini, would like to present each of you with a trophy in recognition of your contributions and expertise. May we have Ms. Lee, please? So first we have Mr. Peter Koo, our moderator. We have Mr. Robert Lowe. And next we have Mr. Alex Young. And then we have Mr. Robert Shan. And last but not least, we have Mr. Duncan Fitzgerald. And of course, our moderator today, for Mr. Peter Koo, moderator today, Mr. Peter Koo, thank you so much, everyone. So, time for a group picture for this precious moment. Once again, let's give our panelists and moderator another round of applause for the excellent contribution to this discussion, and also thank you, Ms. Lee, for the special recognition. May Ms. Lee can accompany our guests to be seated or to lunch. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.